Cool. So now we are officially recording. So I'm going to walk us through the small business package. And again, Jane has helped to vet this package. This lives on our website on the homepage. We have two options available. We have common law, and then we have civil law using the Bill of Rights, which is actually based on common law. So whoops, I think you are looking at the wrong screen here. Let me close that. There we go. Can everyone see see the Stand for Thee website? Can someone give me a thumbs up on that?
Yes,
okay,
we
cool.
can see.
Thanks, Jane. So if you go to standforthee.ca, on the homepage, you will find the small business package. If you click on the small business package, this will take you to a drive. On the drive, we have three things. We have the Bill of Rights package, the common law package, and then we actually did just last week with Jamie and Mitch, who were on the line, we created a small business support panel video. And we also did that with some other business owners as well, just to talk about their experiences, the tools that they're using, and how things have been working for them. Okay, so I'm just going to go through these packages relatively quickly. I'm not going to get into common law too much. I'm not going to pretend I'm a common law expert. I do understand how these documents work. And I just want to preface that this isn't specifically a common law meeting, so I don't want to get too far in the weeds in that. I'd rather, Dan Oak is kind of our resident common law guy. And unfortunately, he wasn't available tonight, but he is always available for questions. So as we're reviewing the documents, if you have any questions, either make note of them or put them in the chat, and then we can certainly follow up with Dan to help guide you through that. So in the package, the first thing you would want to look at is the small business README file. And this just gives a little bit of an overview of what the documents are and how to use them. And then there's the contact information for myself, Jane, and then if you're so inclined, if you got a ticket, to fight the tickets with Rebel News. In this document is just the documents themselves, and there's also a script. And this is just kind of things to say if the police come to if police bylaw or anyone comes to your door, and kind of using that, moving out of the civil vernacular and into the common law vernacular, the natural law vernacular, whatever you want to refer to that as. And like, I do not stand under you, and I'm not in your jurisdiction, et cetera, et cetera. And again, I'm not going to focus too much on this. This is in the documentation. And it's just kind of a way to refresh your memory, as when you're under pressure, sometimes it can be hard to remember the words that you need to say. And because we've lived kind of in this, this legalese framework our whole lives, it can be a hard thing to, to pop into your mind. So we have this there for you. Then there are a few documents in here that you can use. One is the notice of liability for your storefront. And this is kind of like a snapshot to say to whomever the person would be, or I guess the person isn't the right word, but the living, breathing man or woman who's coming to your business, acting in authority of the service corporation, to say, no, you're not, you're not welcome here, you're trespassing, and then these are the conditions for that. So you can just put that on your storefront. And then there is the notice of liability that you would complete that's specific for your name, your business, the city that you live in. And I know Dan partially filled this out. I have to fix this. And this is something that you would download, save it to your computer, edit it, print it, and then put it on your storefront. So we have all the documents set up. So basically everything in red is what you would fill in and then put that on your storefront. And then there's also the notice of liability and the trespass notice. So this would be something that you would use if somebody has been to your business and they trespassed. The first thing you always want to do if anyone comes to your business is you need to get their contact information. So ask them for a business card to identify themselves. And then you would fill out this form, and you would include the day that they came, the time that they arrived, the number of people, and then put in the name of each of the agent who arrives at your place of business. And then you're basically saying again, going back to the common law, you're including the mayor's name, stating that, asking if they're claiming you as property and the right to administer that property, and where there's an obligation or a contract within that service corporation. And you would place that on your door, storefront. And then this is the notice of liability again to say, well, you've trespassed against me. I'm now serving you a notice of whatever that amount might be. We've put in $25,000, but maybe you want to make that more. So again, this is the common law path. These are the documents that you would use, and you would put them on your storefront. There's also the Bill of Rights. And the reason, again, why the Bill of Rights is in this package is because it is a common law document. I know this is a bit small, so I'm not going to try and read it. And it does state, under the supremacy of God. So it's a law that document is used both in the common law package, and then we'll see it again in the Bill of Rights package. So again, a README file, just giving a quick overview of the information in the package. There's a quick little reminder of what to do if officers or authorities, I'm using air quotes, do arrive. Again, contact information. And then there's some information about knowing your rights, and there's a video that you can watch. And then just a little blurb about the section in the Bill of Rights that is the most relevant for you to understand. And then again, some direction if officers should arrive. Now, Jane drafted a letter that anyone can use again, and you can send this to, and I'll let Jane talk about it too if you'd like, Jane. You can send this to your local police division. And this letter is you're just writing to them to inform them of the Bill of Rights, and why it's in violation, why the EMCPA Act is in violation of those rights. And you can send that to your local division, and it would be for the division where your business is located. Did you want to add anything to that, Jane? No? Okay. In this version, we also have kind of a general notice that you can put up on your storefront, again, talking about the Bill of Rights, and the sections in the Bill of Rights that would pertain to you being able to lawfully open your business. Then we also have the Bill of Rights for printing. And this right here, this document is probably the most, I actually have this in my car. I put it in my car and my doors. What the police, bylaw, public health, and these different agents are coming into your business under implied consent, which is the same premise as me going into a Loblaws and not being trespassed for going into that Loblaws because it's an implied public space. And so they're entering your business under this implied consent. So when you put this on your door, you're taking that away from them. You're saying, you know what, you are not welcome here. There is no implied consent. You are trespassing. So print this off, put your information on here, and put it on all entrances to your door. If you put it on your property as well, like if you live on property, or if your business has a walkway, you want to stop them from even coming onto your property. So if you could put a sign, at the end of your walkway to stop them from coming into your building or into close to your property, because you don't want them looking in the windows. You just don't want them getting in your business. So that's a really effective tool. I know we can talk about that a bit later. And then there is a Bill of Rights in here as well, which I suggest everyone print the Bill of Rights and have this on hand. So those are the documents. And then I've created this form. So we're now that there's more businesses that are opening up, and businesses are looking for a network. I've been working on this just to create like a single source of I guess truth for contact information and networking. So I'm working on this right now, and when this is ready, I'll share it on our social channels and on our website. But that's the full package that we have. I know I just said a lot, so I'm going to stop screen sharing. And if anyone has any questions, we can talk about those packages right now. So if anyone has any questions, you can just use the hand raise tool, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. And Jane is here as well to answer any questions. Well, great, awesome. So I'm gonna continue to talk a little bit more about another option that we have, which is something that we're still working on, and we'll be presenting this coming Friday in our Friday night Zoom at 8 o'clock. And this is a small court claims application. So Jane, you can put your hand down and speak anytime.
Yeah, I was going to say Jane has her hand up there.
I didn't see it. Sorry about that, Jane.
But Mrs. Scott are already seeing heightened hesitancy, and if someone had
Whoa, mute that. Hi, Jane. You're muted.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was just going to add to what you were saying, that right now we had a big victory with the police refusing to enforce the lockdown, like the stay-at-home order. I mean, and that's like huge, and it's not getting enough coverage on social media. And there's this other whatever hysteria raising that this was actually a trick because they're intending to bring in the military and force all of this. Well, and the proof is that leaked Liberal document that was supposed to predict the ever increasing levels of martial law. Well, my impression is they didn't get anywhere. Like since day one, the first lockdown, the very first one, had this same authority ascribed to the police, like about stopping people with ID, like bashing into your business, shutting it down, blocking you out of it, all that. It had all that in it. The police refused to do that. Like it didn't get a lot of fanfare because I guess we didn't really recognize that because there was no change basically. So people didn't realize that the law actually changed in March 2020. And so we're way ahead of the game that they intended to play here. And we still are. And I think the Bill of Rights is a big part of that, because with the charter, they could have got away with all this shit. And in other countries that have this commie clause, I call it, where the government can override in case of emergency or whatever, compelling reason they think they have. They don't have that authority here. And so they can't bring in the military legally. Now, I'm not going to say that I absolutely categorically know for sure they're not, but I'd say there's no indication that they are going to. And there's every indication that they're not going to, because they can't. And I don't think the military would be willing to do it, like sort of voluntarily override our rights, because it's their rights too. They live in this country. There's no benefit for them personally, or as even as a whole, to trounce our rights and destroy their own future as well. That's why police are standing back, because they can. And that's why the military, I believe, would also stand down. Anyways, I just had to say it because there was so much hysteria on Facebook today, and people just won't listen. No, we're screwed. We're screwed. The minute Friday, the military's coming Friday. They just won't listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you, Jane. And also, because I'll tell the truth, I got a little panicky too. And then I called Jane. I was like, wait a minute, like there's been no act of parliament, right? No. Okay, well, but the Emergency Act is an act of parliament, but the Emergency Act states the Bill of Rights. So again, the Bill of Rights.
Absolutely. In the preamble, it says that in a state of emergency planning, they can't override your rights, not even in the case of a national emergency. And there's no other martial law legislation. We used to have the War Measures Act, which would allow them to override rights for in a state of national whatever threat of war, but it's been defunct. and replaced by the Emergency Act with that protective condition that they can do emergency things. They could bring in the military Friday, but it wouldn't be to trounce our rights. It would be because maybe because problems with the food chain or something, and they're helping distribute food or some other, urgent. They might even do some stupid ass thing like help pass out the friggin' vaccine,
Yeah.
but they can't force it. They
Mhm.
can just like bring it to you, as like some people think it's a big, benefit. But
Humanitarian.
again, doesn't mean military are coming to force you to have vaccine. That's what people are thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Jane. Hi, Kathy.
Hey,
How are you?
sorry, I was unmuted. I'm well. How are you?
Good.
So, just actually a question for Jane. So, if it's a rumor or if they show up or don't show up or whatever, so the Bill of Rights. So, does anything change in like if it was a roadblock? Are we still going with the same? Does the
Well-
same?
Well, the road don't know how to freaking get around that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like technically they can't do that because that's curtailing your rights. But if they're like, I don't know how you like, I suppose, if it's blocked from a vehicle, I don't see how you can get through that. Like if they put some kind of a
Yeah.
blockage
Yeah.
across it, I don't know how you
So-
get across, but you
So
you could
guys,
walk.
I
you
don't
could
want to.
Yeah.
walk.
I don't want to steer too far off of.
No. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But it is a good
Back you
question.
go.
Thank you.
It's a good
Okay.
question though.
Yeah. So going back to the small claims court application. So, and going back to the Bill of Rights. So the police bylaw and the mayors all fall under the Bill of Rights because they are within the Criminal Code of Canada. So Jane and I have been working on, and are still working on, putting together small claims applications against the mayors for negligence and derelict of duty. And that could be for your business closing. And actually, I don't know if anyone, maybe you guys know this, that I forget the man's name, that the guy who owns Antler Restaurant here in Toronto, he's actually suing Doug Ford for $800. He reopened, as many people did, and he purchased $800 worth of beer and then was promptly closed again. So he has actually, he's taking, it's either I think it's Tory, it must be Tory, that he's taking to court for $800 worth of beer. So I hope he gets his $800 back. So this coming Friday, we will have templates ready to use. Now it's not going to be like that you can take the templates and move with them. You most likely will need some legal help to complete the process, and I'll let Jane speak to it a little bit more. Using the small court claim is a faster remedy. You do not need okay, so maybe you might need some help with processing it, but it's a non-expensive process. It's not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. It costs $115 to file. You can claim up to $35,000, of which if you lose, you pay 17% of the total claim. And the nice thing about this, or the beauty of this, is that the person, the defendant, I guess you would call them, has 20 days to respond. And if they don't respond, then they basically are they're forfeiting their case. So for Tory and any of the mayors, it's a personal claim against them. It's not the city, so it's not the Service Corporation. And so it hits them in the pocketbook, and it's causing them to react to this. So like I said, Jane and I have been working on putting together templates, and we'll have that available in our Friday meeting, the Friday Zoom at 8 o'clock. And what I'll do is I'm going to put a couple links in the chat right now. I'm going to put the Zoom link in for Friday at 8 o'clock. And I'm also just going to put the link in to the small business package as well. So Jane, did you want to touch on that a little bit further than I just did?
Okay, Normala and I have been discussing how to proceed with this, and we would like to make a template that doesn't require hand holding.
Okay, great.
But I was thinking what we might do is do a Zoom, a regular Zoom. I don't know how many would be, like once a week or twice a month or something like that. So if there's questions as we move along, they can come onto the Zoom and ask the questions, because of course the answers would be relevant to everybody. And that's a useful sort of a, how do you say, an effective use of our time, because both Namel and I have been swamped with phone calls every day for months.
Right.
And it would be much more efficient for us to come on here and answer questions, process questions. And that way there wouldn't be a cost, like a process cost. And then we're gonna do another, like a flat rate for people who want to just like turn it over to us. So it would be a lot cheaper because we don't have to do the research every time. There's still a certain amount of processing that has to be done every time.
Right.
Like there's a settlement conference and hearing and all that kind of stuff. So but we can do it at a much reduced price, probably somewhere between a quarter and a half of what, and it's not that expensive to begin with in small claims court, because the process is quick and the process itself is relatively simple. And another important item to indicate is that with small claims court, there are some limitations with it. Like you can't use a charter argument, but we don't care because we're not charter fans, or I'm not charter fan. And the other, the amount is limitation, 35,000.
Right.
But the benefit is that there's no mounting legal costs for the other side. Like when you go to Superior Court, there are some limits. Like they can't just say whatever they feel like saying for the limit. There's a limit, but it's very high. Like by the time you get done a Superior Court case, you're probably looking at 100,000 or more of legal costs. You have to pay all the legal costs of the other party if you lose. But
Right.
small claims court has a cap, and the cap is 15% of the claim that you're making. So if you make it, if you don't make it for if you make it for the full amount, it's 15% of 35,000.
Right.
And then there's caps on when there's motions, and they're really low. Like it's like I don't know, $100 or something. If you lose the motion, it's like $100. It's not going to impede you from going forward. Whereas if you're in Superior Court, when they file motions, you have to pay the legal costs if you lose the motions. And there's like a game that they play with that is when they set the motion, they set it in front of their favorite judge that's going to do whatever they want. And then you lose the motion, you have to pay that amount in order for your claim to move forward. And if you show any difficulty in payment, then they can force you to prove to the court that you can pay the legal costs if you lose. And if you can't go forward. And then none of that applies to small claims court. None of it. Because, well, I shouldn't say none of it. I guess they could prove that, like, maybe prove that you can pay this 15% of what you're asking for, but that's not a prohibitive undertaking.
Okay, perfect.
And,
Okay, so I posted the Zoom link for the call on Friday to go over the templates. But does anyone have any questions around what we just discussed with the small claims court or small court claims? No.
We do have a tentative cost. We believe that we're going to be able to make the templates available for $100.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So your filing fee is $115, and the template would be $100. But you don't get ongoing anything. That's just, there's your template. That's the end of it.
Right.
If you have questions, you have to come to a Zoom. Probably, I don't know. I think once a week's probably too much. So probably once every 2 weeks.
Yep, that sounds good. The other thing that I'd like to address tonight, Jane, is, and I know this has been a problem for some people, is what to do if public health shows up and they take away your license, and what you can do to get your license back.
You mean if they close you, if they put a sign up to close you? That's what they do with the COVID stuff.
Yeah, or
there's liquor license thing that they do.
Yeah.
But I'd have to see if Nirmala has any better understanding of, like, my way of thinking, what I would do is I would continue to operate anyway, and I would continue to sell liquor anyway, because until your appeal process is finished. And they're playing games, like they're saying with a closure, that you have to close until you finish your appeal, which is not, that's not the way our law normally works. Like if in the city, I had a closure notice on a rooming house, and I put in an appeal, and until that appeal, and it was for, like, it was stupid, but they were saying it was dangerous place because they wanted it to come under rooming house rules, which were different than residential. And
Mhm.
so they said that's a safety factor. So they closed it because of that. But as soon as I put the appeal in, they backed off, and there was no closure. It had a closure date and everything. No closure because it's under appeal. But now these idiots are saying that their new rules under COVID, you have to leave it closed until your appeal. That doesn't make any sense. That means you're guilty till you prove that you're innocent. Like
Right.
one of my clients has an actual issue where he's supposed to have an exemption to stay open for a gym when you're teaching Olympic, and they're just going, no, we don't accept your whatever. And then they're pursuing him. Well, Jesus, you get to have a hearing to decide whether they've misconstrued, and he's suing them also for refusing to allow that exemption that exists clearly in there. And he's got proof that he's training from some agency or whatever that provides these
Wow.
individuals for training. So that's like totally preposterous. So I would just ignore that,
Mhm.
and just continue to operate. You know, if they're saying they're taking the license because you've lost your or because you're closed, and they haven't given you any day in court yet, bullshit. Just continue. I would just continue
So
with
appeal,
the
like
no trespass.
do the appeal and keep going, or just keep going?
Do the appeal, of course, do the
Okay,
appeal.
so put the
And
appeal
while it's
in.
under appeal, yeah, while it's under appeal,
Okay.
they should, I mean, that, anything else other than that is like totally unreasonable. That's like saying you're guilty and we're gonna punish you and, do everything before you've even had your day in court.
Okay, got it. Thank you for that, Jane.
Yeah,
Um,
but I can't say that's my legal opinion. That's what I
yeah.
would do as an individual. Like legally, I don't know, because actually I would want to, in all cases, provide some sort of challenge to the bylaws themselves, and that in particular I would challenge as being unlawful, unreasonable, and unlawful.
Okay. Colin's gonna say
So,
goodbye to us. He's gotta go.
yeah. And just before I do say goodbye, actually, this is a perfect segue, because there was one thing I wanted to say on this call. And that was that everyone and all the business owners, just like myself and everyone on this call, we have to make these decisions for ourselves.
Mhm.
So, it's not going to be without repercussions. It's not going to be without a fight. And it really, we got to go back to that whole thing. Why are we doing this? What, if we do nothing, what's the result? If we fight, what's the result? And you have to make those decisions for yourself. Every single individual does. But just to, make sure that everyone understands that everything we're talking about tonight is just, opinions and for educational purposes, and to weigh all these decisions for yourself and think, because every situation is different. Everyone's got an individual situation that's different from mine, or, business owner down the road. But yeah, thank you so much, guys. I do got to run, but
Thanks,
appreciate you
Colin.
all.
Have a great night.
Okay.
Okay,
Night,
bye.
guys.
Yeah, bye, Colin.
Bye. I see you've got two hands up. Shalu, hello, how are you? You wanna
I'm not
unmute?
doing good today. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
It's been a very heavy day and I was looking for guidance and I don't think I've gotten it yet. So my concern is few things. First off, all the badgering from all these people has left my staff extremely weary. I don't have the kind of business where I can just open up and I do it, it's just me. I need a lot of staff because as the seats fill up, I need a lot of staff. I literally hired 5 people in that week or 10 days that I was open because that's how busy we were. Some of them would be fine, if we opened again and defied. Others were broken to the point where they were crying and were like, I can't do this. This is way too much stress.
What happens when they arrive to your business?
So, well, short of me just living there, right? Because they showed up when I wasn't there on a
Right.
Saturday night. And that's when health showed up and AGCO showed up. And that's the video that went viral where the customers threw the AGCO out. But
Yeah.
then they came back at me and are now trying to charge me with obstruction of not letting them do that. I'm like, I wasn't even there. You know, your staff stopped us. I'm like, she was on the other side. She didn't stop you at all. You guys left because the customers, you know, made you change your mind that it wasn't in your best interest to be there. And they're questioning my integrity and honesty. And I'm like, oof. I've had a liquor license like in different restaurants since like 1993. Okay,
What do you
that's
mean
almost
questioning your integrity and what does
that, yeah, I don't have the paper in front of me, but it said that we believe you are breaking laws and we have reason to, you know, question your integrity and honesty. Like, what does that, you know what I mean? And so when I responded back to them in an email, I told them, look, okay, so I've stopped, I'm not serving, because my biggest concern was, you know, I got a letter from the public health, like the Charles Gardner, who is the chief medical officer, you know, ordering me to close. And I did not want them changing my locks or anything like that, which again is, you know, unlawful on their part. But I didn't want to push it to that far a point because literally all of us like-minded people were meeting, right? And I didn't want to lose that spot where we can all kind of find each other and get the conversation started of what needs to be, because for the longest time, we've thought that we are the minority. I do not believe that for a second to be true.
No.
When I look at, you know, maybe a year
Can I
ago, that
jump in
was
on
true.
that one? Can I jump in
It's-
on that one?
Yeah, absolutely, Jane.
It's for the closure, that's supposed to be the police. And they're not doing it,
Well, this is what, but the police show up every time with them.
but they
You know,
don't do
this is the
anything though.
question I
They
asked.
don't, okay, they show up. Okay, this is a psychological, trauma-based, you know, control that they're doing. And we have to see through it. Like the police standing there doesn't mean they're going to smash your door down and lock your doors. They did that at Skelly's, but that wasn't the police. That was the public health overstepping. It doesn't even allow them under the Emergency Act, even as you know, perverted as that act is, it doesn't accord the public health the authority to occupy your property and use the trespass to property. That's what they did there. And they had to do that because the Toronto police obviously refused to shut it down under the provision for shutting down a gathering, which is in there. It does say that they can do that, but they didn't do it. And they haven't done it anywhere. So the police are refusing to do that. So we have to recognize what do you call it? What gains or what advantage that we have had there, because the police are not allowing themselves to be used even with this. And by the way, this is not a law. This is a bylaw.
That's exactly what I
a
responded to
regulation.
them.
It's a regulation, and you have law on your behalf. You have the Bill of Rights. That's what keeps the police at bay, and the locking the doors and all of that has to do with your rights under the Canadian Bill of Rights, and that's law. Okay, they have a bylaw, which is the lowest level of law. Like, it's provincial bylaw, and we have federal law and the international covenants, and you know, two centuries of the establishment of rights. And then we have inherent rights that even go beyond that we have that all on our side. And we've forgotten that in Canada, because by and large our rights have not been violated, so we don't understand what that means. And these rights have been played out in our, also our criminal code also incorporates all of that protective procedures. So, so it says the police cannot enter, and that includes your business, except by implied consent, with which what Rebecca talked about in the beginning. But if you have the no trespass, that negates that. They cannot come in. They can't come bashing in without a criminal warrant. Now the bylaw says they can, but the Bill of Rights says they cannot. So luckily, they have been accepting the responsibility under the Bill of Rights, and they're not coming in. They'll come to the door and they get on your nerves, and the fact of them standing there is intimidating. I get that. I totally get that, but we need to get over it. Like, see past it, see through it, see that they're just at the door. They're not smashing in. They'll walk in. If you have no trespass notice, they'll walk in. And if they walk in anyway, then they're there unlawfully. You don't have to listen to them, and you can throw them out. And legally, you have the authority to call the police to throw them out. Legally, like, totally seriously. I'm not being smarfy at all. They have no business to walk in. If you want to allow them in, that's fine. If not, they have no business. And how can they even have any evidence of their stupid little bylaw proof and all that shit if they can't come in? They don't know if you're operating. They don't know if there's too many people. They don't know if you have masks on, because they didn't see that. We have to assert firmly and fully. We can't just dabble at it. And they're not going to back off because we're nice to them. That's not happening. Or because whatever, like, or we have a crowd outside. They don't care about that either. But they do care about, you can see them. They care about that trespass. Like, we don't know, I don't know how many times Barry said they walked in once and he said, did you not see, to OPP, did you not see the trespass notice? Oh, no, I didn't. And he left immediately. He backed up and left. So we have to do that. And we have to be firm about it too. We have to be, this is a war. Make no mistake about it. This is a war, and it's a deadly war. And these people are hell-bent set on taking over this country and enslaving us, which in part will have to do with destroying our business. That's what's going to give them the power to do this. And also, I don't know if that's true or not, but it appears as though they have an intention of dramatically reducing world population. But they have to get there first. And then in this country, our rights are stopping them. And if they could use the military, just snap of a finger, because they have so much power and influence, they would have already done it. And if they had that much power to use the military, that same power could have been used to affect their plan. You can see in the bylaw what their plan was, but they didn't get there. Now, they got there in part by people thinking, oh my God, I don't want to get a ticket, but like, well, that's like Cullen always says, like, our rights were established and maintained through people, going to war and taking a bullet, and we're afraid of getting a ticket. Like, never mind. Like, and we have to do that anyway. We're going to be bankrupt otherwise. So you got to go as far as you can go. And if they overstep, whatever, like, we still have to go. We still have to go that way, because the other alternative is bankruptcy, and they're not going to stop until we're bankrupt. You can see that that's what their intention is. It's not to control COVID. Like, that's not even real. Like, that threat is not even real. Okay, sorry, that's kind of a button for me. Not that the speaker pushed it, but it's just sort of a general button for me.
So the two things that we'd use kind of to defend yourself in that situation would be the no trespass sign that you put on your door. It's directed directly to the police, to bylaw, public health, etc. And the Bill of Rights, which is the federal legislation that supersedes these bylaws. Now,
the criminal code, which ties in. It's like the criminal code has all of our rights incorporated in there. So the criminal code guides the police behavior, and they're not supposed to smash into your home or your business without a warrant. That curtails their activity right there. So the Bill of Rights and the criminal code curtail that activity. And it also stops them from asking for your ID for no reason and where you're going. those things. And they were refusing, thank God. Publicly, they came out and said, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And I love that. I just love that.
I have a question because, and now I saw this in the States, and I know we're in Canada and we're not gun toters up here. Well, at least not to the same capacity. And a woman early on, she had opened her store, I think it was in California, and she, I don't know, is California a gun state? It wasn't a gun state. And she had hired security detail for for her storefront. And it's something that I know that I think you probably know that we've talked about this with Stanford E is, the concept of creating a new system and creating like our new, new healthcare, new law system, whatever that may be. Could someone like Shalou, could somebody hire security detail to handle the police when they come to your business, so to allow Shalou or to allow a business owner to continue their business and conduct their business and not have to be the person that goes to the door to say, you're not welcome or whatever it may be? Is that something that people could consider doing?
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
You have a right to protect your property, Section 34 of the Criminal Code. You can protect yourself from any unlawful entry, and that means to the extent that you need to. So having security would definitely fall in a reasonable, a reasonable category to defend. So yes, you could have, and they could be authorized. Even one, could be authorized to deal with the police if they come, because I can understand Shalou her staff doesn't want to have to do that confrontation with the police when they come. But if you could hire somebody,
Yeah.
I don't know if resources permit, and maybe they could do something else at the same time, but they could be designated as the individual that's going to deal with the police, so they could come off other duties or whatever and go and deal with the police.
Yeah.
Or if you have enough resources, you could put, exclusively one or two people, maybe exclusively as security, and then they can, you have to have people with the right personality, right? That wouldn't have a problem with saying, no, officer, you're not coming in.
Got it.
I wouldn't have a problem doing that. I should have been an announcer.
Thanks, Jane. Okay, Shipta, I saw you've got your hand up. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Good, thank
Nice
you.
to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me. So my question is, of course, particular to my particular business. I'm self-employed. I work in health, and my work right now is pretty much being conducted from my home office. I'm an osteopath, manual osteopath, but I'm mandated by my association, which is telling us we're not permitted to work. So what, that comes down to for me is they provide me with a license number that then provides the patient that comes in, client that comes in to be reimbursed through their insurance. That's the license number they need to get it covered through their benefits. And the only thing I'm just telling people is I've reopened and I have to put food on the table. You're welcome to come. I'm not issuing you a receipt, and you will need to not claim it. Like, that's just how it goes. If you need to see me, basically you'll come. If you need it that bad, you'll come. Is there anything else I can do with regards to my association or anything? I don't know what else I can do. I can't generate a lot of business this way.
I would
but
recommend suing the mayor.
Suing the mayor?
Yeah, because the
Okay.
bylaws are being brought in through the municipality. And as Rebecca mentioned at the beginning, I have no idea why, but the mayors are regulated under the criminal code, and which is federal. Don't even ask me. I can't even figure it out. The police are, which makes sense, criminal code, police, but the municipal bylaw are also regulated there, and so are the mayors. They're called, it's under, they're saying that they're peace officers. So that means that
Peace, like holding the peace?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, like I said, nobody seems to know why, but maybe somebody had some foresight or something and thought, like if whatever in the future, if we're faced with this kind of external invasion of our country, that would be a good way to have a municipal safeguard for this kind of intrusion. So they have a code whatever you call it, they do an oath, but they also have duties, like listed duties.
Mhm.
So I haven't looked at them yet, but I'm assuming that it's going to have basically an outline of their fiduciary duty towards the citizen. So it's the same as the police turning around to the province and saying, no, we're not doing that. We're not stopping people and asking for ID and asking them where they're going. And they're not going in and shutting your business or your gathering, they call it, but it's your business or your home or your church. In Ontario, they're not doing that. So the mayor has the same prerogative. They can say to the province, sorry, no, we can't do that. We can't enforce that bylaw because there's a law that far supersedes, and that would be two laws actually. So you have your Bill of Rights and your criminal code, which would prohibit that kind of activity. And instead, they're just embracing it and enforcing it. So that's and actually there's negligence issues as well. You know, if people are losing their income, suicides,
Mhm.
domestic violence, and then the harm to the children, which is not really what, but actually the harm
Collateral
to your
damage.
yeah,
The
so
collateral
making
damage.
making us wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
harmful
collateral damage,
activity.
all these people.
Yeah.
So should I start with first finding other colleagues of mine who are maybe wanting to do this together, or do I just go and
Yeah,
like,
you just go. In fact, it's better to do it individually. I mean, it's good to pass it on, and the more that do it, the better. So if your colleagues also want to do it, that's actually good, um, because that's what my vision is, to basically bombard the mayors
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have, it's going to really be a problem, because every time we file, it's going to cost them somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000 to defend each and every application that is filed, unless they do it themselves. But if they hire a lawyer too, that's the standard fee. They
Yeah.
might have their own lawyers, but still, that's the lawyer's time that they're paying for. That's doing that, and they have to go, do the clerical part of it, and blah blah blah.
And
So
that's
it's gonna
yeah,
cause them problems no matter what. Even like I say, if they have clerks,
Yeah.
you know, processing it and stuff like that.
and
And if
it's
they
time
don't
to,
do it, they lose.
yeah, and it's time, if these guys should be held accountable, and let's go after the people that are ultimately, you can't just
Yeah.
keep passing the buck.
Yeah.
And let's
They've
go after.
So this is-
sheltered. They've
is this a
sheltered all
process I
the.
can do myself? Is this a process I can
Yeah, you
take
know
on
what?
myself?
Yeah, so shift it. This is using the small claims court.
Okay,
So-
was the stuff you were saying earlier.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
come to the
we're-
call on Friday, and
Yeah,
we'll have
okay.
more information and explain the process on how to do that.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay?
And
yeah,
we'll
thank
give you,
you.
we'll give you some legal lessons, and so you can get a seat of your pants law degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just spent 10 years in family court dealing with the devil, so, and winning my case for my kids. So it's like,
Oh, good for you.
I just took a
Awesome.
breather of courts. It's kind of funny, but that's okay. Maybe I was meant to practice that muscle to take on something else. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Well,
It's all good.
I can see, and we're gonna name them personally. We're not gonna say the city. We're gonna say the mayor, because
Okay.
the mayor has a fiduciary duty to the citizens,
Okay,
and they have
yes.
no business imposing an unlawful bylaw. They have no business doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And in the
Shifta.
meantime, I should just pass this on to other people,
Yeah,
Invite
absolutely.
them on Friday. Invite
as
them
everyone
Friday.
can sue. Pretty much anyone can sue.
And
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what we should do.
Yeah.
Yes,
we're
that's a
talking.
great idea.
Yeah, we're talking about lockdown or mask, just straight up mask. Parents with kids with the mask issue, or
Okay.
some employers are starting to flex the vaccine and PCR and all that stuff. Same thing.
Don't get me started. So I
Yeah.
can pass that information that you put on
Yeah.
the chat to
Yeah.
other people, Rebecca?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, we
And-
will also, in some cases where the business doesn't want to actually spend the time for that, Normella and I will also take on the cases at a much reduced rate, because they're going to be similar in nature. And so we don't have to do the research every time. the research will be done. And then if we've taken it on, there's still a certain amount of administrative work that we have to do. So there has to be a charge for that.
Right, okay. Well, thank you for letting me know. Yeah, thank you. Sure, we'll talk later.
And Shifta, if you want to share your information, Kathy's asking about where your office is, and if you want to.
Yeah, sure. So my
Yeah.
only office now, because I closed the other ones, I'm at Danforth and Greenwood area in the east side. My company name is Balance Beam Wellness.
I like that. That's cute. That's good. Do you want to put your contact information in there?
Yeah, I'll put it on the chat right now.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. All right, Mitch. Hi, thanks for your patience.
Hey guys, so yeah, again, introducing myself. My name's Mitch. I'm the owner of Futuristic Fitness. Now, just a couple questions on the small claims. I think that is our next step in regards to moving forward as many of us business owners holding those accountable. Now, how would small claims court look at some of us who have stayed open? Like, for example, me who's stayed open during the beginning. You know, how would they reflect on that? I mean, for example, I've already spoke to my mayor before, and he actually just kind of completely ignored my emails in the past. And in total, based on projected numbers, I've probably lost about $60,000 to $70,000. And I've talked about this to Jane. Now, so I think I definitely have a court or a case to move forward in small claims. But my question is just, you know, how are they going to look at some of us business owners that have been kind of fighting this early on? You know, or do we, because the only thing that worries me is that 17%, you know, if we end up losing, then that coming out of our pocket. So maybe you guys can provide some insight.
If you're asking for a prediction, you can't get one because this has never been done before. These bylaws are brand new, and this strategy is also brand new. So it hasn't been tried, and it's more for its direct action value than necessarily for legal value, because if we do this properly, it's a very simple a very simple legal presentation. Like, it's not complex. It's saying that the mayor is implementing bylaws that violate the Canadian Bill of Rights. So that's a simple concept to be able to publicize, and then that's your court of public opinion. So people looking at the situation from the lens of human rights versus public health. And sad to say, the people that are more inclined to be concerned about the so-called virus, they're not going to be supportive of that. And if you have a judge who is an asshole, you know, that thinks, oh my God, we're all going to die of the virus, then perhaps you're going to get that kind of bias. But we don't know, like, in advance, what if the judge is going to have a bias or not. So basically, this is it. If we don't do this legally, I don't see anything else. Like, I think they already anticipated all the various approaches that, like, because I spent months trying to figure out how to approach this from Human Rights Code. That turned up to a big fat zero. And the charter doesn't work because you have to have that constitutional challenge attached every time, and then the decision of that challenge has to be the basis of whatever else you're going to move forward with. So if you're going to sue the government based on charter rights, you have to have that challenge first. You have to have that constitutional challenge first and win, and then sue them after that for the losses. And that's very time consuming. Your business is probably going to be down the toilet by that time. So even if you win, it's going to be a shallow victory, because it's not easy to start all over again with the business, get your customer base back up, blah blah blah. It's better, in my view, to try and stay open, and take whatever legal recourse other than a constitutional challenge. I don't see that as a good basis. And there is a chance, like if you just follow the actual law as stated, section 1 of the charter. So if you're going down the charter road, section 1, I know I've gone on about that a lot, but that gives them the possibility of winning if they make a stronger medical case, if they outmatch you. And there's another prohibitive factor. If you go down the charter route, you have to make a stronger medical case, and you can't just grab research off the internet and bring that in. You have to bring in the researchers or the doctors, because they're going to say they want a cross-examination. And they got deep pockets too, so God knows who they're going to bring in, and God knows what they're going to say. So I didn't want to have that pursuance. And this approach, we're not going there. We're not going to have the debate whether there's a virus, how bad it is, blah blah blah. We're not having that. We're instead saying it doesn't matter if there's a virus or not. Doesn't matter if PCR test works or not. You're not allowed to override our rights without a federal act of parliament. You have no federal act of parliament, you lose. But I can't say that, obviously I can't predict what a judge is going to do, but I can tell you, if the judge is doing his job properly, you will win. That's all I can tell you. And I can't say, if his lens is colored by whatever perception of the public health banter, but we're not going to go down that road anyway. We're going to stick to the strict. We're going to ask for a strict adherence to the laws as stated.
Right.
Does that where you're looking at, or did I go off track there?
Yeah, no, that definitely answers a lot of the questions. I just wanted to say sorry for the background noise. It's pretty busy here. Anyways, but no, so the way I understand it, it's almost going to be kind of luck of the draw.
Yeah.
So I don't mind being one of those first runners up, taking this on and moving forward with that. So, because I think, just based on everything you said, before getting too many people on board, maybe we should run one through, see how things go, and then, go from there, right?
No,
I think
there's not enough time to do that. Like the communist breath is on our neck right now. So there's no time to do that. And the whole idea is to bombard the mayor. That's going to have a greater impact than the court probably even. Like literally, I'm thinking bombard. Like I'm thinking hundreds, maybe even thousands of lawsuits, and not a big risk, not a big financial risk to anybody.
Yeah, and
but
they
the
only
mayor,
have 20 days to respond.
Yeah.
So if they get 100 of them or 1,000
Yeah.
of them, they're going to be scrambling to get a
and
response.
their cost, if they get a lawyer, is going to be intense. If they get like we know here, probably just without even having launched this or anything, we already know probably 40 or 50 that are going to do it like right out of the gate, like for business. But there's also we haven't discussed it yet in detail, but there's a bunch of people that are involved in other areas, like the long-term care, healthcare.
Parents.
Same thing. We're going after the mayor. And
Parents.
Yeah, parents with their kids in school, the mask, all that. We're going after the mayor. The mayor. Like everybody, everything is going towards the mayor. And I will tell you one thing. Actually, I don't know if I told you this before, and I think it will go to your question, Mitch. In early 2000s, we had that Premier Mike Harris, and he brought in, he was, after free trade, they were going after the social programs. And one thing he did is he cut off welfare for 16 to 18-year-olds who were mostly kids getting dumped out of the children's aid. So they had no family, no resources, really nothing. They were like sleeping in bushes and like in parks and all over the place. And we went after the mayor of Ottawa and just mercilessly went after him. Meanwhile, it was provincial, like in this case, it's provincial legislation, but he had enough authority to intervene for his citizens, and he had a duty to blah, blah, blah. That's why we're going after him. And plus he's local. We can get him. Like, he's right there. Is the way a lot. He's not as out of touch to us as the province is. And we completely downed that mayor. He was done. He was completely, like, we put him right to the ground. Plus, we got that issue resolved in Ottawa, like rectified, and it went back through the province, and it got rectified right across the province without any legislation change. They just stopped doing it. It was a loophole that they found, because they can refuse welfare to somebody who's entitled to other money. So the kid that comes out of CAS is entitled to CAS welfare basically till they're 24. So municipal welfare was saying, well, you're entitled to that money over there, so you're not getting this money. But the CAS wasn't providing it, so they were having nothing. So they stopped doing that. Literally stopped doing the loophole. Still there. They stopped doing it, and that's since 2006. I thought it was going to slip back as soon as the attention was off it, but it's not. And that's without any legal action. That's just for, we had a tent city, and just emphasizing and we did a wanted posters, like wanted for crimes against the homeless and activists, because they were whatever doing various things. Anyways, it was wonderful results. So I expect the same kind of results with this. And it's a two-pronged. This is even stronger because we're also using the court, and we're using the Bill of Rights and all that stuff instead of just fairness. Like, we were just going after, hey, what the hell? Like, these kids are all over the street. What are you doing? So this is going to be the same. Look at these businesses. You're destroying them. Look at these kids. You're masking them. Da, 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 you know, so it's got that sort of public, what the hell are you doing? And at the same time, it's got legal provision to draw on, which we didn't there. They had a loophole there. They were allowed to legally do what they were doing, and we still forced them to stop doing it. So I think it is a good strategy to focus it like that. And it's easier and cheaper, because Normal and I spoke about that. Like, people were saying that we should put the public health director or whatever it is on there. And in some cases where it's involved, like an employee or school or things like that, put all those things in. But I don't think so. At the end of the day, it's simpler for us because you just have one defendant. So you just have to serve one defendant. And the arguments are simpler too. Like, you just have to show where he's got a responsibility and he's violating, he's breaching duty, and he's neglect. So there's two legal torts there, negligence and breach of duty. And I think it's easy case. It doesn't mean I'm saying that I know it'll win. I don't know. Like Mitch has said, he's making a good point there. You don't know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, right? That Forrest Gump. You don't know what you're going to get in terms of an adjudicator, but we know what shit we can stir up and pressure that we can put on the court, make it sort of public awareness and that kind of like, well, you better not dare say that we have no rights, you little, whatever. So even we can that's what Clayton Ruby used to do with his constitutional challenges. He would make it basically make a movement that was watching, and a lot of noise and discussion about it, so that people were aware of what the court was being asked to do. So that puts more pressure on them to do the right thing when the awareness is and we can do that. We have lots of brains. We have lots of brains, lots of different talents, a little bit of resources where we can share them, to make sure we can use druthers, for example, like we put articles into.
We've got like an army of people that can get this information out.
Yeah.
And I like the concept of doing the wanted poster. I think that's really like, people are already doing those. And it's kind of an eye-catching thing, and especially when you see your mayor's face.
Yeah.
So, okay. Thanks, Jane.
We did some protests in front of our mayor's house this week. I don't know if that's useful information I can speak on, and if it is.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I would like
Charlie, sorry, you just joined a little bit late. We do have somebody else who's had her hand up for quite some time. Thanks. Josephine, hi. Thanks for
Great.
your presence.
Thank you, Rebecca. Thanks, Jane. Thanks to everyone. I would love to hear more about the due to the border closures and the stay-at-home restrictions. Jane, can you shed some light around short-term rental businesses?
Josephine, I actually have an Airbnb and I'm operating mine right now. So,
Oh,
yeah,
you're in the Toronto region or
I'm in
Niagara?
Toronto. I'm in Toronto. So
And-
we actually, just to clarify, in the Toronto region, I can't do short-term rentals. That's been taken away from me by the city. They implemented that in September of last year. And so I now can only do 28-day bookings. So I do 28 days and beyond, unless I'm doing outside of the app and I do like a private booking. But I believe that Airbnb has made a statement that you cannot do short-term rentals right now. But that was the case last year and I was still getting bookings because there's always extenuating circumstances.
Okay, interesting. So now do we have any leg to stand on as a result of, because even limiting the restrictions of staycations, right? Our borders are closed. I'm in the Niagara region, so
Yep.
most of my business was coming out from the US, obviously. But here, even with staycations of people coming from Toronto or etc., that even limits them coming out here. So do we have any legal grounds or anything to stand on regarding that?
I'm probably going to be doing the small claims again for my condo because exactly, Josephine, I had bookings for people from Montreal, from Niagara, from various local regions, and they canceled every time a new order would come out. They would cancel because they would get afraid of traveling. So I plan on doing a small claims application for my condo, for my Airbnb. Absolutely, you lost bookings because of these inflammatory measures. So, I mean, I'll let Jane jump in on that, but that's my plan.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah.
I
sure.
would support that. Direct losses because of their negligent activity
Yeah.
and unlawful, like it's a violation of the Bill of Rights.
Has there been anyone currently that you're aware of who has proceeded with small claims regarding this? I mean, we don't know how long this is going on for.
I can pretty well say not with this approach. This is a fresh approach. Like if they have its exemptions, which don't seem to be going anywhere for mask, and anything else besides this, you have to do a constitutional challenge first. So whatever your claim is, you have to win a constitutional challenge first. Initiate yourself, go through the process, pay for it. It's very expensive. You have to have the public health muscle contest, see whose public health is stronger than the others and convince the court. And then if you win, then you go back to your claim, whatever it is. So you're talking a long time. I don't know exactly how long, but very long time. What's his name there? Galati filed last June, hasn't even hit court yet. So I don't think that the other approaches that have been undertaken are well, although there's some constitutional arguments other than the well, still, no matter what constitutional argument, you're still going to have the public health medical argument. Ours doesn't, because we're saying it doesn't matter. All of that doesn't matter because Canadian Bill of Rights doesn't allow them to override your rights, period, end of conversation. So that's a short, sweet, position to take. I don't know what ultimately, like Mitch was raising, like what kind of prejudice that we're going to get from the adjudicator, but I think we can, possibly help level that out by public awareness and pressure and all that kind of stuff.
Does that answer your question, Josephine?
I think so, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Mitch.
Okay, so just to touch on that, I know I can advocate for getting more business owners on board. I already know before I jumped into the call today, I actually contacted a few of the business owners I know who are all willing to possibly move forward in the small claims court. One thing I do want to touch base on, what is the time, what is the time frame that we're looking at in regards to, you know, filing this and possibly pushing this through the courts?
Usually in small claims, now mind you, it's probably slower now because of COVID, but prior to COVID, it was about 4 to 6 months for your settlement conference, and then another couple of months for your hearing date. After that, it usually was about a year for the entire process, A to Z. Now, like I say, it could be behind now because of COVID, so they might be slower. Like it might take you longer to go through that. But again, that doesn't mean that we don't get any progress in the meantime, because we build up the awareness that they're being sued because they're in violation, and try to make that as simple as possible to people. Get them to understand what their rights are and how their rights are violated. That's going to help us, you know, not just, you know, in our court case. It's going to help in general with this fight itself, because that's one of the battles that we have now. Most people don't know what their rights are. They
Yeah.
don't know they're violated because they don't even know that what the rights are in the first place, and they don't know what the consequence of allowing those rights
Right. Oh,
to
Jane,
be
Awesome.
you're
Thank you,
cutting.
Jane.
We're losing you a little
are
bit,
going
Jane.
to be. We
Oh, there we go.
from permanent law. Yeah, it was good. Like they don't. First of all, they don't understand what their rights are, and this can help to build up awareness of what their rights are and how they're being violated. And also another, I don't know if our case will help, but another thing that people don't realize is the ultimate consequence of allowing the rights to be violated. Like once they're, you know, even in the lockstep, it says, you know, they're going to start with overstepping. And then once the virus is died down, they're not going to forego that overriding. So at least in Ontario, they didn't get where they plan to be for now. Like if you look, I'm going to look at that document. You know the document, that leaked document?
Yes.
It gives you all the predictive. Well, they tried everything, every single thing that was in that document, but they're not getting away with it. They're not getting,
Yeah.
like people are catching on, like people are refusing to go to the quarantine.
Yeah.
For one thing, people are refusing to close their business. Police are refusing to implement the extraordinary power of police, which is wonderful. So even though that's what their plan is, they're not getting very far.
They're not.
They're hardly out of the gate.
And when we
The
have
only
beautiful
thing
weather, everybody's
yeah,
outside
the
enjoying
only
themselves.
exactly. And I love that. So the only thing they have gained is people believing that they have the legal right to remove those rights based on COVID. That's the gain. But they're losing ground there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think at the beginning everybody felt like, oh, that's the law. We got to do it. Now they're like going to the beach or going
Yeah,
wherever.
exactly.
Yeah, my granddaughter said she went this weekend to Westboro Beach and it was crowded, Nanny. And I was like, yay. So it's wonderful. Yay that she went, yay that was crowded.
Yeah.
Is that where the Emergencies Act comes in? To play?
Emergency Act is a wonderful act. All this hysteria over, oh my God, the Emergency Act is coming. The Emergency Act federal is wonderful document. In the preamble, you see that it says in their emergency planning, they have to regard to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Canadian Bill of Rights, my favorite, and the international covenants on what is social and political rights. And they can't abridge these rights, especially the fundamental rights, even in the case of a national emergency. So if we move into a declaration of a national emergency, and that's where everything directed from, it's actually advantageous because the provincial emergency measures does allow for overstep. And so if we move into the emergency measures federal, that's actually a benefit. And if the army is called in, our laws prohibit it from bringing in the military to override our rights. So if they do bring in the military Friday, it'll be for helping possibly to distribute the vaccine, but not mandatory,
No,
voluntary, but theoretically helping. I don't believe it would be, but they could do other things. Say if the food supply chain broke down, they could help distribute food. They could
Right.
help if there was problems with homelessness or something. They could help like that. Whatever that they can do to help with an emergency, but not override.
right.
The hysteria seems to be around the possession of property. Can you speak to that at all?
The same thing applies with the Canadian Bill of Rights. Even if they bring in laws that allow this acquisition of property, like to take control of property, it's also not legal. It like the Canadian Bill of Rights overrides that.
Okay,
Because there's land rights in there in the Canadian Bill of Rights, not in the Charter. See, the Charter, in my view, was enacted in preparation of communist takeover of this country, and it has two main features that allow that, and they are the two things that were changed from the Bill of Rights. One of them is Section 1, that allows the government to override your rights if they think they have a good enough reason. That's number one. Number two is they forgot to write enjoyment of property and the right not to be deprived thereof. Okay? They forgot that. So that's advantageous for communism, which seeks to have government own all the land. So they can override your rights. So that would be including your right to land. And then, and that's what communism is, basically a political state where the citizens have no rights. If you have rights, you have no communism.
Exactly.
And
So it's almost 9:30, and I wanted to give Jamie a minute if you wanted to say hello and just kind of give a little bit about what, and for you too, Mitch, if you guys want to just give a quick shout out.
Also Charlie was wanting to talk about the mayor.
Yes, I
protesting.
see that. But I'd like
Okay.
to wrap up the
Sure.
kind of the business portion, and then we can jump on to Charlie's point, because I did have a look at what he wants to talk about.
Okay.
So I just wanted, if Mitch and Jamie, if you guys want to just give a shout out and just kind of let people know what you've got going on before we wrap up.
Okay, I'm Jamie Russo. I own Push and Ink Tattoo Emporium in Barrie, Ontario. I've been open since January 4th. I shut just to do renovations. I started out pro bono, or sorry, not pro bono. What is it called? Prohibition style. There it is. So my open sign was off, and I was kind of under the radar. I took a big stance on February 11th. I got hit pretty hard. 2 days in a row. I closed so that I could regroup. I started writing a bunch of paperwork. I'm standing in common law. So I wrote a bunch of paperwork out, reopened for the 18th of February, and been open ever since. Since then, I've still been writing paperwork, so I'm still pursuing because I wound up getting a $25,000 or up to $25,000 summons. So that's going through the courts right now, and I'm still writing paperwork and resolving that issue through the courts, which probably will not see the light of day. The courts are so overwhelmed. So what I've been doing as well is I'm in a few different groups. So I started in with Stand for Thee, and I've been a big part of We Are All Essential, helping them. I've been helping coordinate little groups, community groups, with face-to-face meetings. Shalou's on the call. She's in those as well. We have a middling group going. I've started getting Sarnia going, Windsor starting to go, Kitchener, London, Mississauga. So I keep trying to hook up and connect a bunch of people that are the right people for each other. So in my opinion, these Zoom calls are great. Chat rooms are great. I've been involved in a lot of them as well. I think I'm in 9 chat rooms now. But the face-to-face is where you're really going to make some ground. When you're sitting in front of people, whether they want their mask on or not, doesn't matter. Nobody's biased there. Most of us wind up without our masks. That human connection, talking about what you're going through, and each community has different hurdles to kind of get over. So when you're sitting with members of your community and you're discussing what your issues are. For myself, I'm a tattoo shop, totally different than a restaurant's issues. So then we have a group of people, and what we've been starting to do is either create a chat or a multi text message group. So when one of us is in trouble, we wind up bylaws here, you know, and give the address, and then we rush there. So basically strength in numbers. We had one woman in a hair salon, and 20 people showed up, made a line between her and the police. The police wound up driving away in about 10 minutes. So it's a way to keep each other safe, a way to keep each other supported, and to go through these hurdles and know you're not on your own, right? So when you take a stance, you have to realize that you're going to be dealing with this. It's just not going to magically go away. So you want to get your tickets, try and be as courteous as you can, but you got to be firm. So I recommend, if you go legal or whether you go common law, really get to know your stuff. You're not going to get perfect. I wasn't perfect when I first started. I did videos to show people, but you have to start somewhere. So I'm the type of person that'll throw myself in the fire and then learn. And so that's kind of what I did. But the more you learn, you can rhyme it off, and then you can take a solid stance. The more solid your stance is, then the less chance of you backing down or getting intimidated, because this is all an intimidation strategy. The more tickets we get, the more summons we get, we're going to bung up the courts. Eventually it's going to overload and it's going to pop. They're going to throw them all out. This is a high potential, and we just got to keep getting these tickets. We know what the outcome is. If you go bankrupt, okay, and do nothing, or if you get ticketed, if you have to pay at the end and go bankrupt, at least you fought for what was yours.
Amen.
So
Amen to that.
that's what I have to say. So thank you so much for having me again.
Thanks,
Glad to
Jamie.
be a part.
Thank you.
Right on.
Mitch, did you want to? Oh, sorry, Jane. Yeah, right on is right.
Say
Mitch,
right
did
on,
you?
Jamie.
Yeah.
I really like that message. It's
Yeah.
really positive.
It is. It is. And it is a good message, because we're at a point now, to your point, Jamie, I mean, businesses have options. You can do nothing and you're going to go bankrupt, or you can try something. And I mean, there's no precedence for anything that we're in right now. We've never been here before. So everything we do is trial and error, but there's no harm in trying. So, Mitch, did you just want to say a few words?
Just one more point with Jamie's.
Yeah.
The idea that something's either legal or common law is a little bit of a confusion, because our system is supposed to be common law, and small claims court is superior court, which is a common law court, and it's supposed to have the common law jurisdictions, the whatever the authority of the court to resolve, and it's supposed to be guided by the common law principles, the same common law principles that are represented. Now, I know there's problems. We have bastard courts. We have the Ontario Court of Justice, which is a bastard court. It's not a common law court. And the provincial family court is a bastard court as well. And they're both not legal even, but our legal courts are common law courts. And if they start putting a statute over a common law principle, that is illegal. That's wrong. They've made an error in law. And we can, push them to go back to what they're supposed to. We don't have to start all over again. There's some babies in there. There's some babies in that dirty bathwater. There's a lot of corruption, and like I say, the judges using statute over common law, but that isn't even legal. There's no legal basis for them to be doing that.
The rabbit holes. Rabbit holes.
Yep, exactly.
Thanks for that, Jane.
Yeah, that's why I always support the liability pursuant, and that we're all autonomous, all that. Like I've always been autonomous. I've never agreed to be under the jurisdiction of, but we can use a process to assist in resolving a conflict, and we should still have the jury basis, because that's what common law is, the jury, the public opinion of what's moral and correct. That's what the essence of common law is. And there's no reason why we can't bring it back to what it was meant to be in the first place. It's not meant to be authorities over us, judging us and putting all that down. It's just supposed to be a process, like a sort of a public process of working something through to a conclusion, to a justified, reasonable conclusion.
Okay, thanks, Jane. And now, Charlie, I know Kathy's got a question here, and we'll get to you at the end, Charlie, so you just be patient, my friend. Thank you. Kathy, I see you have your hand up. I'm assuming it's related to what Jane had just mentioned.
It is, yeah. So why can't we do our own common law court like we did in Mississauga? Why do we have to go through?
Oh, we did one with Stand for Thee, and
Right.
some other
She was
people.
there.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful. We
Yeah.
loved it. Yeah.
But when we're talking about the small claims court for the say the mayor, why can't we just have like what would be the difference if we did our own court, then go through a whole year of waiting for them to
We can.
get?
We can.
Is there an advantage one way or the other?
It doesn't have
Other
to be
than
one way or the other.
speed?
It doesn't have to be one way or the other. And I think the fact that if we bombard the mayor, it's going to hurt him in his pocketbook, for one thing. And public opinion. Public opinion is going to
Right.
be really bad towards the mayor because they're still elected, right? So we have that advantage. And we can do like our own common law. I believe in that. I participated in that one that we did, and it was wonderful. Like it was, we found him guilty. A cop was given a summons for violating the individual's rights to protest, the right to protest. And we had a jury, we had an adjudicator, we had Dan Warren stood in for the cop who didn't show up. So we said it was an amicus giving the best defense possible for the cop, even in his absence. And it was very serious. The jury was like, they came back and asked questions, and then they went back into their lockout room or whatever you call it, and deliberated, and then came out with a very good statement. They said the charter, they recognized that the police officer had been able to justify his behavior under the charter. However, the Bill of Rights, he was not able to address properly his innocence with regard to overriding the Bill of Rights. So yes, I would be into doing that, and there's no reason why we can't do it together. Like, I mean, it's not one or the other. It can be both.
So say we did do a common law court against the mayor, and we find him guilty. I think, and maybe Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the next point is, what do you do with that? Like, how would you?
Yeah, exactly.
You could you can do something with that, because when you find them guilty, there's a liability that's a fine or like a judgment against them, like 20,000, 50,000, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can start collection procedures.
So how
even
would
if
you
it's
do
coming
that?
Literally, you give them so many days to pay, and then you put it into Equifax. And if you can find out where they live, you can
put a lien on their house.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm
in for that.
Yeah, I'm digging that. But I'm gonna suggest.
Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Seriously.
Let's talk more about that. But I'm gonna park that just because it's 20 to 10. And I'd like to if Mitch wants to say some final words, and perhaps Shalou as well.
All right, so thanks, Rebecca. So again, my name is Mitch, Futuristic Fitness owner. I'm a new business owner that opened up during all of this craziness. Was supposed to open up April 1st, opened up later in the summer. Did a lot of studying during that time, kind of really understood the reality of what's going on here. As the second lockdowns rolled out, so I'm just going to quickly give you a brief overview of my story. As the second lockdowns rolled out, very shortly after Adam Skelly chose to stay open, I stayed open as well. I was actually, even when I first opened, I kind of expected the second lockdown to come, and I just told myself, I wouldn't be locking down. I'd be standing up against this. So I was pretty loud. I wasn't really quiet about it right off the bat. I think, shortly after Boxing Day, I had Rebel News come out. You know, I actually have the inspector of my area served with trespassing under common law. So one thing I wanted to touch on is we could have just brought up a little bit in regards to common law and maybe trying to move forward more with that. So, I mean, I already have kind of a case on the table if you guys want to move forward with that, but we'll talk about that later. Anyways, so simply how I, you know, and I always like to reference the charter, but I've actually, you know, dug a little bit deeper in regards to the law, had conversations with Jane. The Bill of Rights is much more, you know, cut and dry. You know, being a fitness advocate, I think it's, you know, we're a lot of people who own gyms and own fitness centers, we're being targeted. Because we are dealing with nothing more than maybe a little bit overly mild virus. You know, I have a lot of nurses on my team here, nurses that work out here. So I have a pretty good reality and understanding of what we're actually dealing with here. You know, long story short, yeah, maybe there are some people getting sick here and there. The best way to protect yourself is staying active and, you know, dietary information, things like that. So those people who own a gym, I think it's like an open close for you because you are that person that teaches people about maintaining a healthy lifestyle. We know now with all the year of data that we've collected during 2020 that we're not dealing with something that can justify actually shutting down the economy, you know, attacking our livelihood, abusing our children, abusing the elderly. The Bill of Rights is really going to pull us out of this. I have a court proceeding May 19th where we're going to file an F4, a question of the Constitution, probably bump it right up to the Superior Court. Me and Jane are going to be working on that together. So we'll have more insight and more guidance to business owners as we move forward. Jamie touched on it earlier, and it's a great thing to help everyone understand that, you know, when we all stand up against this, it's just, you know, then it's really an open close thing where the courts are just going to be overwhelmed, right? So with this third lockdown, I feel we have a great opportunity because now the majority of the perspective has actually changed. No matter where you look, news articles for Doug Ford's, you know, Facebook, you know, more people are actually against this than for it now. So this is the time. This is the time for businesses to open up. This is the time for, I know I've been a whole lot more active in rallies and things like that. I'm going to be one of the, you know, main featured speakers in Stratford on Sunday, another large rally where I'm going to be bringing more things to the table. The small claims court, and what I want everyone to understand is I have family in the military. I have connections within the law enforcement. You know, I even have good friends that work out here in the hospital. What I think, and nobody's perfect, but what we're really dealing with here is a politician problem. There's a lot of countries across the board that have very corrupt politicians, and those countries are the worst off in regards to all this. They're the ones that are having the most, you know, the real stupidity getting rolled out across the board, and that's our country, right? We need to hold the politicians accountable. I think the small claims, things that we've mentioned before in regards to the common law court, moving forward with small claims, all of those things are able to hold people accountable. I know I would way much rather pull money from these politicians than accept government grants and hyperinflate our dollar. That's what's going on right now. And I just want to make that clear is when you're a business owner and you're choosing to close that door and not stand up against this and you're accepting as much money as possible, you are playing a role in the collapse of our economy. And that's what these people want. And that's what they want to do. So when we hold those politicians accountable, that's a way for us business owners to get reimbursed for everything we've lost. But we don't strip our economy, we strip these politicians, and that is the solution. So definitely all for that. And the best suggestion and advice I can give all business owners is simply to stand strong. And, you know, I've had quite a few, being one of the first businesses staying open. I can say, you know, I've had to stand outside my business and challenge these police. I don't know how many times, 6, 7 times. And the fact of the matter is the stats and the data are on our side. Law is on your side. The Bill of Rights is on our side. You know, you slap this stuff in your window, you just go out there, you speak respectfully to these law enforcement officials, and you just make it clear that you're not invited into my facility until all of this is over. You know, nothing against you, but I don't believe that us business owners are treated fairly. It's cut and dry. Continue offering your services to the public. That's what we need to be doing here. And, you know, if you don't feel right about what's going on, stand up against it. It's our duty right now to really move forward from this and break ourselves out of this, you know, communism attempt here that is being pushed on us.
Well said, Mitch. Well said. And that's, to me, like Mitch touched on a lot of that, that the businesses in my mind are really the biggest catalyst right now. When they stand up, that this is really what's causing this to crumble, is when the business owners are like, you know what, hey, there's a point where it's like, there's nothing left to lose. I'm just going to go for it. And that allows everybody else to take those steps to go for it too. So that's fantastic. Really, really good message, Mitch. Nirmala, I see your hand up. And then I think if Shalu wants to say a few words, and then Charlie, we will get to you, my friend.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Just a couple of things. I see it on the other side now because my office has been dealing with small businesses since March of last year. So people talk about standing up, great and everything, but the consequences. So let me just go through what we have learned in our office about consequences, okay? So they started off with provincial offenses tickets. Then they went to penalty tickets from the municipality. Then the third thing is they went to Section 22 orders, which is under the Health Protection and Promotion Act. Then they also give small businesses notice of temporary closure. In addition, they come up with notice of failure to comply with a continued Section 702 order. Recently, I've seen something totally new. You talked about Adam Skelly, and that was one of the cases that I was working on. So Adam Skelly had a Section 9 injunction that they came after him, which is to cease and desist. Well, apparently, the government now has decided to bring an application to the Superior Court of Justice asking for an injunction. So when you get a Section 22 order, they can do so under Section 101, I think, of the Health and Protection and Promotion Act. And that's something that they could be successful in because they don't have to give notice to the business. So I just wanted to draw your attention that these are the kind of things that my office has been dealing with. And I know Jane has been working very hard with you. So if at any time you need some advice or information, we're here to assist you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Nirmala. Really appreciate that. That's great. Thank you. And again, like both Jane and Nirmala have been incredible through this whole experience and extremely helpful. So very thankful to have you guys and to know you guys. Thank you very much. Shalu, did you want to say some words in as we wrap up the evening?
Well, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this. I think after listening to all of you, what I am getting is I need to have a better understanding of what my rights are. So if I could get some help in understanding the Bill of Rights, and because, you know, I mean, I followed Jamie's lead on the common law thing, and it felt great to do that. But once they started, you know, well, freaking my staff out, because like I said, I can't just open the doors and do it by myself. So that was one thing, but also they were relentless because there's one other restaurant, but it's like a pizza place, which is more takeout, I guess, anyway. For whatever reason, they're not bothering him. They're just at me constantly. And like I said, when they kind of sort of came through the doors and I didn't know the next recourse. And again, from the example of Adam Skelly, I didn't want them locking me out of my own business. Mm-hmm. That is why I kind of backtracked and said, okay, I need to regroup and figure out what I can do to stop it once and for all. You know what I mean? Like, or just make it so that it's not the same pattern over and over again. So I think I just need some help in understanding that, you know, that aspect of it as to how to move forward in a peaceful manner, but in a way that it's not constant and, you know,
Mhm,
I don't know,
mhm.
just it's really like it took a toll on my staff. And like I said, without their support, I can't really do this, you know?
Right, right.
So I can provide some insight on that if you want, Shalu. I know, for example, the Bill of Rights is a very easy document to understand and cannot be manipulated as much as the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The only thing I would really reference to the police and individuals when they do show up is simply that you have the right to property, liberty, security. And within Part 2, the very first section of Part 2, it says this is not to be construed or abrogated. Therefore, it's very cut and dry. And I actually explained this to a few officers, and it really changed their mentality. I actually had an officer call me after he left and gave me information on how to place charges on the lieutenant governor and those involved in parliament, because it actually suggests that those involved in actually implementing the Reopening Act are actually criminals, because they're taking away all of our rights. But Part 2 says it's not to be construed or abrogated. Therefore, all of those involved with the passing of Reopening Act through legislation are actually the ones who are breaking the law. Now, the Justice of Peace in Ottawa, they actually know this and they're on board with it. And I'm going to explain why. They actually stopped accepting private information during this time. So that's very important to understand. Now, some police are a little bit lost in all this because they're not being told about the Bill of Rights. They're being told about the Charter. They're being told that this is for our safety. And they're being told that Section 1 gives them the ability to do this. It changes when you put these things up in your door and you say, no, you cannot trespass, and no, this is the Bill of Rights. And no, the Bill of Rights is still a standing document and is constitutionally binding here in Canada. Therefore, you took an oath. That oath is to uphold our fundamental rights and freedoms here in Canada. So you still need, you still need to act under that Bill of Rights. And then you can actually explain to them, if you really know your stuff, who the real criminals are. And you might really blow their mind. I've done it to a few of them. They actually haven't came back in a while, which is nice to see. The last time they did come back, they showed up with a number of sergeants, staff sergeants, public health. There's about 7 cruisers here. And I really just, told them reference the Bill of Rights, and I got into information with them. They haven't been back since. But yeah, to reference those 2 sections, Part 1, Part 2, there's only 2 real parts in the Bill of Rights, and just really reference the first section there in Part 2, that Part 1 is not to be construed or abrogated. Say, you just feel like you have the right to offer your services to your clients. Another thing too is just don't let them in your facility. Don't let them in, never let them in. I always say it's nothing against you guys, but if all of this wasn't going on, I wouldn't mind if public health came in. I wouldn't mind if the police came in. The fact of the matter is all of these rules and regulations, they're not fair, right? So why at this time should I let you in? And just try to be respectful and really hold your ground. I feel they're going to pick at you if you don't know your stuff, right? And they're going to kind of bully you. So it's just, you really got to outline those sections within the Bill of Rights. It's a very simple document. Just read it. There's a few words there that even I didn't understand because I don't have a law and degree in law, right? So, Google's my best friend. There's some words there. It's like, okay, what's this mean? But I just took time to understand it. That's the document I now reference because I understand. And actually, the one thing that the sergeants kept saying the last time they came out is we are acting under the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And that's what I've always referenced to. Even in my rallies, I've referenced the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And I've understand now that that document was pushed by Pierre Trudeau. And all of this is kind of coincidental. The way it's rolling out is, this document got pushed by Daddy, and now he's in control, really using it to his power and trying to manipulate the police to really bully us. So the Bill of Rights is the way to go. Post in your door. There's a no trespassing. I think Rebecca and you have all of this, Rebecca. So maybe
I
have those signs up.
Yeah. And really understand that document, like read through it and really understand what it's saying there. And there's been no act of parliament to override those rights. So every right delineated in that bill still applies to you and all of us and to the police. So, maybe, I mean, I'm not sure what more, read through those documents again and really study that bill.
She can call me tomorrow and
Yeah,
I can have a one-on-one with her.
Perfect.
Sure. Could you just
Perfect.
put your number in there, Jane?
Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah, and it's also her, both Jane and my contact information is on the, is in the README file too on the drive.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And actually, before I noticed, Nirmala, I wanted to ask you if you wanted to share your email with people, if anyone wanted to reach out to you. And Mitch, I wanted to ask you if you know who Jack is. I feel like Jane, that Mitch needs to know Jack.
No,
Oh yeah,
I don't know Jack.
Jack's
Okay.
a wealth of information about the criminal activity. He has it all drawn up, and he's done the research to show which laws they're breaking and what the criteria is for these charges, and how especially the lieutenant governor. That's his most favorite target.
Yeah. And that's exactly to your point, Mitch, is that he's been trying to do the laying of and information, and because the JP office is closed, and you have to think of the implications of that. Like, that is ridiculous that we don't have, how many people could that be impacting?
Yeah. And I know when I spoke to the officer, it was a pretty decent one, and he just pretty much loosely said he didn't agree with me. And we got into a discussion, and I said, I see all this enforcement on our side of things. And I just helped him explain that, when the population's perspective changes and you guys are only on the one side of this, maybe I don't think, the society is going to look too well upon you when all of this starts to change, if you guys are only standing on one side. So I think he may have actually given me that information, how to place a private or actually submit a private information to the Justice of Peace. He may have very well knew that they weren't accepting private informations at the time, but he probably just wanted to show me, right, that there's nothing they can do. It's like, they've done everything on their side to prevent the police and prevent the public from moving forward with charges and trying to arrest them. So it's just interesting how, they're forcing the police to do all this to us, but then they're shutting down their side of things, right? So, it's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a video that you can see online that was an interview with a former KGB agent, and he said in countries where communism is whatever it happens, they need the assistance of people in the country to bring it about, and then after they're finished their invasion, the people that help them, they kill them. So these people, especially the public health that are right out front, and Ford and all those people that are like in the forefront of this agenda, if we win, they're going to jail. If the communist wins, they're going to get firing squad. So that's another message I think we should send out, and it might make them think twice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's really what we're dealing with here is it's like a win-lose, and whoever wins and loses, it's like, it's going to be big, right? It's going to be huge changes. I honestly think it's going to be for the better. With all the studying I've done, I do believe we're going to win. I think the Great Reset is the Great Awakening. I don't like to get too deep because then I start to kind of scare people off, but I do believe we're on the winning side of this. It's just going to take time, brave souls and warriors to really push this through. So, I mean, that's what we're all doing here in this chat. So.
I think our police are coming through, and I expect that the military is going to come through as well for the same reason, because it's their country too. It's their children. It's their future. It's their rights. So if they have a legal cause to say no, and then they want to say no, they will say no.
Yeah. Okay. It's 10 o'clock. Kathy, I see your hand up, and then we're going to go to Charlie. Okay.
Sorry, I'll talk
Poor
fast.
Charlie.
So
Charlie's been so patient.
So there was someone on earlier, and sorry, my grandkids were here tonight, so I was kind of in and out, but I caught something about making like connections so that we can get a hold of each other quickly. And I was thinking when these businesses like the restaurant that is going to get, figure out how to do it and get the sign and open up, that as many of us as are available, we go there and fill the table and pretend we're eating, even just to be numbers in the restaurant or in the gym or so I really like the idea of just connecting all the groups and being able to say help. And
Yeah, maybe Jamie, did you want to jump in on that? I know that it was you that was talking about that, and I think that's how we get through this, is together, right?
We've done this in Brantford as well. Just wanted to let you guys know we recently done this exact thing.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
It is a very, very powerful thing because it gives other business owners the courage so that they can stand up and open. They know that they have patriots running to them. So our group in Barrie, it's not just the business owners. We also have customers that are supporting us. So when Chalou was open, and anytime she had any conflict or them showing up, it was in our message, and there was 10 to 20 people that would show up on top of her full restaurant. So it gave her the support. She knew people were there, and the ability to kind of keep going and get that drive. So for every business owner, it's amazing. So if you wind up in a conflict and it's getting out of control, which did happen the one time, the people were able to put a row of cars in front of the shop, get the person out of the shop so the police couldn't arrest her. And, the police dissipated because we have the strength in numbers.
Right.
Now, hopefully this is something we don't have to do all the time, because eventually we're going to get enough businesses to open up. So when you think about it this way, if you got 15 to 20% of your businesses that are closed to open, that's all it would take.
Yeah.
Your bylaw would be overrun, your health would be overrun, police. So they're going to nail one spot, and they're going to stay on that one spot instead of trying to go all the way around. So if you keep showing up to that one spot, or you get that one spot to close a day, open a day, close a day, close 2 days, open a half day, and then just keep going like that, then the bylaw is not going to know, or the health is not going to know where they're going. We're in the middle of some war tactics, so these strategies will prove themselves, and they already are, right? So I was at the Midland group last night, and we got a group text going so that they can do that as well, because to make sure everybody's safe. But it is a big confidence builder, and
Yes.
meeting one-on-one as well, because you compile those two things, and it goes a long way. And again, rallies do a lot, but rallies on their own don't. It's just talk. There's no action. Rallies with businesses opening and grouping together is where this is really going to start to take a huge turn. And then us connecting, we're not going to out-strategize this enemy. They've been planning it way too long. We have to overwhelm them. That's it, period. Everyone just open your businesses. If 20% of the business is open, it's done. That's it. It's over. Game over.
And sue the mayor, overwhelm the mayor.
Yeah, come at
Exactly.
them at every angle. That's what we have to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Jamie, I'm probably going to touch base with you, because I'd like to learn more about what you've got going on and how you've got this set up, because I'd like to see how I can help and how our group could help facilitate that in other areas. So, but we can talk about that another time. All right. So Charlie, what you got for us?
Are you sure? It's an absolute pleasure. What a great think tank you're putting on tonight. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Rebecca.
Charlie, so nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Charlie.
Jamie, I'm just gonna fire a couple quick questions in, I guess. So Jamie, what's the number? What's the tipping point? Is it 10 people in front of a restaurant, a business you're finding is effective? Because I know that the police protocol is to default to disengage when they encounter a crowd of a certain size that moving forward will escalate or agitate a crowd and create a riot type situation. What do you find that kind of sweet spot is with a number of people to put out a place?
Well, we've only had to do it really strong one time, and they made a row of cars so it blocked the police from the building, and there was about 12 12 to 15 people there.
Okay. So
But
that was
a lot
enough.
of
Was
times,
enough, right?
a lot of times when the police are showing up, other than that one incident, they're coming with the health or the bylaw, and they're peace officers and they're assisting.
Right.
They don't want to be there. Most of the time they're looking at the ground, they're shuffling around in the background, they're not being assertive or aggressive. If you ask them why you're here, they'll say, we're just here as peace officers, we're assisting, and that's all they'll say. So most of the time they're pretty cool and nonchalant. When you get about 10 people there, you know, they'll really calm down, kind of idea. You know, and I've seen in a couple of videos, there's a woman out in BC, and they just chanted out the health board and the police, and then they just turn around, they walk out. So if you get all the patron-
That's been the breakdown I've noticed. There's a certain number, and then there's there's how do you present strength from your group? That's unification, right?
Yeah.
Chanting or in unison movements. This presents kind of a show of force to cops, where that's where they default to their protocol, disengage, right? Because here we are, where they're not following the law. They're possibly not going to listen to the Bill of Rights either, because they're not listening to the law. So how do we get them to take their out, which is disengage, because there's a show of force that is potentially dangerous for them to agitate, right? So I really like that.
I'd like to answer that. They are respecting the Bill of Rights. They aren't entering. They're bitching and intimidating and ticketing and all of that stuff, but they're not entering.
Okay. What's the specific thing that you quote from the Bill of Rights when you want them not to enter specifically?
Section 1, life, liberty, and security of person.
Okay, great.
And Section 2 says that they're not allowed to override the provisions of the Bill of Rights without a federal act of parliament.
Right. Okay. And that's enough.
And the criminal code delineates that restriction, because it only allows entry of the police if they have a criminal warrant. And it's very specific and very clear about that.
Right.
They can't just go bouncing in because the neighbor said there's 7 people in there and there's only supposed to be 5.
Right.
But the Emergency Act says they can go in and shut down if you're not meeting the conditions. You know, if you have too many people or whatever. Like the closure is you're going to have too many people, right? Because the closure is saying no people. And then also the Emergency Act says the police can stop you, like walking up the road, and ask for an ID and ask for where you're going. Police in Ontario, 42 police services out of 44 have said, nah, we're not doing that. Right. And they can't rest on the charter, as Mitch stated. The charter does allow them to do that because of Section 1. They're allowed to override if the government thinks it has a good enough reason to override. So it's the Bill of Rights.
Charter was almost like a subversive way to get them.
If we didn't have the Bill of Rights, it would be illegal for the police to refuse to do that supervision of stay-home order. Illegal it would be if we just had the charter. But because we have the Bill of Rights, the police were able to legally say, no, we're not do that. And as a matter of fact, they're legally obligated to say, no, we're not doing that. And they must be saying, no, we're not going to enter the businesses either, because the actual bylaw does allow them to enter and close the building without a warrant.
Mm-hmm. So the conversation,
and they're not doing it, and that's not new either, eh? Like people are thinking that this idea of the ID and where are you going, all that is new. It's not new. It was in the first round. It was in March. Yeah. And going into closing your gathering was in the first round in March, like last March, not this March, last March.
In 1919.
So nothing's new. Nothing's new.
Yeah, 1919. So some of this stuff was happening in 1919 also with that the vaccination situation there.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically,
well, we didn't have the Bill of Rights in 1919.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and that partly that's like we didn't really have the International Covenant either until I think 1945, I believe, and that's the kind of thing that governments were doing, that all of these rights were about, is to establish the right of the individual to protect them from the state. It's not from each other. It only binds the state. Like it's not your rights from your neighbor, right? That these are about your rights from the police and from the government in general. So they're very, very important rights to have articulated. And as Rebecca said at the beginning, they're common law rights. And also the wording of the Bill of Rights recognizes that you have these natural rights from God, and they're recognizing them. And it even says in there, and it even says that if you have any rights that are not are articulated in this document, you still have them. Like, in other words, it's not an exclusive list either. It's an attempt to articulate your common law natural rights, like God-given rights. So it's a wonderful document. It talks about human person also, not the corporate person. Like the charter says, it talks about the corporate person.
Right.
And Charlie, sorry, you were a little bit late to the meeting, but I just put a link to a drive where you can find 2 small business packages. Both of those have the Bill of Rights that are printable, and also the no trespass sign. So anyway, have a look in there. You might find that information useful.
Yep. Okay, we were trying to put pressure on the mayor here in town. I mean, obviously the protests are happening on the streets, but I kind of recently thought, let's put pressure specifically on the mayor. So we car protests are one of the things that's arisen from our small groups, kind of like what Jamie was saying. We've taken the big group, and personally, I've kind of found small groups out of that big group of people that work together well. And each of those groups comes up with initiatives of their own. And actually, Mitch and I have talked about this too when he was at the Brantford rally. And so one of our groups came up with this car rally strategy, and we thought, let's take a car rally to the mayor's house. Well, it provoked the mayor to the point where he said he wanted to resign.
Whoa, wait, right on. Well, wait till he starts getting bombarded. Wait till he starts getting bombarded. With, with lawsuits.
It was so gentle. It was so gentle as well.
Yeah, in my dreams, there's going to be thousands and thousands of these going forward.
I think people will start doing it.
So I don't know if anyone's interested in how to do it, but you start first to get your car rally going, and always have a specific meet place. Car rallies are effective because people who are intimidated to come out in person, they will in their car. You can also use car chalk to chalk up your car about your cause. Once you get your car rally meet spot, you can pick a different target every time.
Wow.
So you can upgrade your target intensity. So at first you might just start around a block. It's pretty easy peasy. Then pick some more higher profile targets. Eventually you get to the mayor. And then you take your cars to the mayor. And by this point, the leader of the group has worked up the trust of the group to follow. Because when you're going into a private property condominium situation, you got about 7 or 8 minutes to get in and out, because the cops are going to come in our town in about 13 minutes. So you want to get in and out, make your statement, get your photos for social media to embarrass the mayor and put your pressure on those pressure points and create internal conflict. And of course, all the comments that come from that, basically deconstruction of the mayor in public. And then you leave before the cops get there. So
when did you do this? When did you do this, Charlie?
Last Friday.
So Charlie, there's a member in our group, Harold. He's an elderly man, and his wife is in the John Noble long-term care home.
Yes.
So we actually started a group, Stand for Seniors, in support of Harold. And this is great timing, because up next is we're going to be doing, so Harold had sent this letter to the mayor, and it's a very eloquent letter talking about how he has not seen his wife in a year, talking about—
there that day. I was there that day at the protest that we met.
Well,
so this is our next target, is John Noble home. Is that where you're going?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No. Because what we're going to be doing is, now that I have the letter from Harold, we are going to, in a group effort, send that letter to the mayor, because he basically blocked Harold's email address.
Oh, yeah.
So now you guys went on Friday. Now we're going to hit him with a bunch of basically that letter again. So Josephine, I'll put my email address in here. So I think this is really good timing, because he's going to get—
Is there anything we can do to help you? If there is—
actually, once I have to update really the only thing we're looking to do right now for Brantford, I have to update the letter. I'll send it to you when it's done. It is from Harold, and if you were there, you heard it. It's an incredible letter.
You know what else is good is in the car is safer from the police because that's your property. You can put, like, as Rebecca said, she puts the no trespassing on the car and keep your window locked, or sorry, your door locked and your window up, maybe just a crack if they're trying to, talk to you. And it's the safest way. It's actually brilliant. It's very, very good.
I might get a t-shirt.
Right? So,
No
yeah.
trespass.
No, car protesters are very effective and people love them, especially if the weather's inclement, you can still do them. I just
And
had
another thing too, if they were trying to disperse it, if you were all parked bumper to bumper, they couldn't take your cars out. You have to put a car has to be towed from the front or the back. So if you're bumper to bumper, you could shut down the road, and they couldn't get the cars out if you're all bumper to bumper. They can't drag them sideways.
That's correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Can I ask is there time for one more question, or if that's all right?
Yeah, I'm fading quick, but yeah, we can, you got some good stuff, so we'll keep going.
Okay. Regarding the specific, I guess this is maybe to Mitch. They're trying to come into your business and they don't understand the Bill of Rights and they're threatening to arrest you if you don't give them their information. What's your specific verbiage that you're using, Mitch, with them to prevent them from coming into your business? Specific verbiage.
So, to be honest, I always just see them coming and I meet them outside. I think the one thing that's helped me when they first came, it wasn't verbiage that I actually did. And I spoke to this recently in my, when I did speak earlier. They did trespass the first time. They came into my facility. I actually filed charges through common law, and I directed it straight towards the inspector. And I actually served the inspector of my jurisdiction personally with a common law notice of liability stating that because someone under his control already trespassed in my facility, I would be moving forward in a common law court because we do fall in a common law court jurisdiction here in Canada, and I would be charging them $100,000. When I did that, that's when they had a change of pace with me. That's it. When it wasn't verbiage that I used when they came here. I have used verbiage when they've came here and I spoke to them outside in that, but I found they really changed their demeanor with me completely and were very careful on how they actually acted around me when I actually sent that notice of liability off to the inspector. The first cop that came here just after Boxing Day, I mean, he came here belligerent. He walked in my door. My door was actually locked. It was after closing hours. I had just finished a training and I was sitting at my desk eating some turkey because it was just after Christmas. And I actually, I looked up and I saw the police officer there. And I went outside and I spoke with him and he asked if I was the owner, and I came in to grab my ID because he asked for my ID. So I'm like, okay, I'll give you my ID. And I knew he was going to write up a POA or whatever. So I came in to grab my ID, and he grabbed the door behind me and he let himself right in. I mean, at the very beginning, these people had no regard for the law and they didn't give a shit. It's when I sent off a brief disclosure to the actual inspector, and I said, look, this guy's under your control. This is what he pulled. I'm looking at $100,000 because he came in here, yelled at my clients. He, trespassed in my facility. It was unlawful. It was a misconduct. I didn't invite him into my facility. And this is the thing, is under some conditions, they might feel like they have the right to come into your facility because it's public property and you have your door open to the public. But the thing is what he really screwed up because he did it after hours. I mean, right on my ticket, it's 7:30. My doors were locked when he did it. So not only am I not open to the public at this time, like you blatantly trespassed. And as soon as I got them in hot water, that's when they changed their demeanor with me. They changed their approach completely. Even when a sergeant came out here recently, he said, I'm not going to step past that line. And it's when I sent that notice of liability off is when things changed.
And also putting the trespass notice firms up your obvious decision to disallow them. Like there's no question, they can't misunderstand or whatever, like it's clearly telling them. and
And then-
naming them. It says police are not to enter public health or bylaw.
Yeah, and that notice, and that's very important to touch on what Jane's saying, because when you do have that trespassing notice up, and if they do try and trespass and break, disregard it, now you have grounds to move forward in a way that I just discussed. If you don't have that signage up, and if you don't help them understand, or if you don't even if you don't direct them to the Bill of Rights and you don't have trespassing up, then they can come into your facility, and that's the misunderstanding people have. You have to have the trespassing up. You have to tell them that, no, this is the grounds I'm standing on. You're not invited. And you just simply, that's all I say is, you're not invited in here. I go outside, I make sure I have the notice of liability in my door. And yes, and if they do trespass, like I said, and I've said it since the beginning, if they come here and rough me up and throw me in jail, I'm going to make it like a bandit, right? So if they come into your facility and you have that trespassing notice up and they still come into your facility anyways, now you have those grounds to move forward in a common law court. And we've already discussed those things.
Also, you have the legal right under section 34 of the criminal code to defend whatever necessary. So if they're coming in with guns or whatever, or more than one, like several of them, you could even legally, not that I'm advocating it, but you could legally justify armed defense of your property.
Interesting. Yep.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Charlie, again, that notice, that trespass notice, the notice of liability, all of this stuff that we're talking about right now, I just put the link in there again to the drive where everything lives. And again, if anybody needs it, my email address is in there as well. And guys, I really gotta go. It's 10:30 and I haven't had dinner. and I'm starting to not feel so great. I would love to keep going with this conversation, but I really gotta go eat some food.
If anybody wants to jump in and have another conversation, we could always do it somewhere else too. I'm up for
Yeah, I would love to kind of continue this conversation and go a little bit deeper. And yeah, it's been a really good conversation, and it's good to get insights from people who are using these tools to protect their businesses, and to see the responses, not just from police and the authorities, but from the community. And everyone's been getting positive response, because all of us want, and I'm not going to say normal lives, because I don't think the way that we were living was suitable for humans to thrive. But we need to get back to having that sovereignty, being able to take care of ourselves, having our businesses, and reclaim those rights that are ours. And, the bill is such a great document because, we've talked about it earlier, but it is on the supremacy of God. It states that in the document. And one funny thing, I'm going to show this, that we talked about, Jane pointed this out, going back to like the persons, right? Which is, we know, is different from being a human, living, breathing person, being, is that on the Charter of Rights, it's shadow people, right? Now my Bill of Rights is really chewed up. I took it to a protest one day, and the Bill of Rights actually has people that are identifiable as people. So it's really interesting that is on this document. But for the sake of wrapping up this call, I'll mention it again. And now I'm getting tired. I'm gonna start to get tongue twisted. But on our website, stanforthee.ca, small business, the package is there, common law, as well as civil law under the Bill of Rights, even though it's a common law document. There's also a video on there, which is the panel that we did with Mitch, Jamie, and actually Shalu, as well as some other business owners. So that video link is there. You can certainly watch that and go through that panel. My email is rebeccastanforthee@gmail.com. You can reach out to me anytime. So thank you guys. This was such a great call. It was such a good conversation with all of you. I'm very thankful. And again, Jane, awesome. Nirmala, awesome. Thank you so much, you guys. And you know what? I think maybe we can all touch base and schedule a follow-up meeting. I think it'd be really good to continue the conversation. And for anyone who hasn't, please join the mailing list at stanforthee.ca and sign up to the mailing list, and then you can get our emails. So
one thing I'd like to point out is the combination of contributions here are like very dynamic and very powerful. Like they all fit together, but they're different components, I guess, so to speak. And it's very, very, this is one of the most riveting conversations I've seen since all of this has started. And I mean, it's because we've all learned,
Yes.
from investigating whatever. Now it's all coming together from slightly different angles, but it all blends.
Yeah, we're the originals. We've been in this for a while. We're like the OGs of rebellion.
Yeah, the old timers. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Charlie, you messaged me earlier, so I've got your contact information. So I'll definitely get in touch with you. And maybe we can all, get connected and continue to build that network, because that's what we have to do. And I also do want to explore, because I've had some people reach out to me about doing security detail, and it's something that we had talked about in one of our calls. So maybe Shalu, maybe Jamie, we can find the solution for Shalu with getting, at least for a little bit, getting some kind of security detail so that her staff doesn't even have to deal with it. So maybe that's something like as a temporary basis until they finally leave her alone. So
I agree.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to help too with
Okay.
that.
Yeah, and maybe it's just, some volunteers that are, they need to be cool-headed people that can help mitigate all of this. So again,
Where is the restaurant? Where is that restaurant?
It's Simmering Kettle, right?
Barry, yeah.
Barry.
In Barry.
Are you serving inside, Shalu? Because I could really go for indoor dining.
I was, but like I said, as of last Thursday, I've just been complying because my staff was freaking out and some of them were going to jump off, and go, okay, I can't do this. This is too stressful. And
Right.
B, I was not sure. I don't know what the next step that the chief medical officer would have taken, and I didn't want them changing the locks on me.
Right. And you've got Jane's contact information now, right?
Yeah, Normala. I think it's Normala's email there or phone there.
Yeah, let me just
because that's what's
I did
really becoming a.
I did put my email on the chat.
Okay.
I spoke with Nirmala earlier today. We did have a conversation.
Okay, I'm just going to post it again before we go. So if anyone wants to grab it, I'm posting it right now. But again, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. And onwards and upwards, and let's liberate ourselves.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Rebecca.
Take care,
And
everybody. Have a great
my
night.
favorite saying.
Have a good night, Rebecca.
My favorite saying. We
Hold
got
on.
this.
We got this. We got this. Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. Fantastic. See you soon. Bye,
Good
everyone.
night.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.